Welcome, everyone. The Scurv podcast. LanceScurvX here, LanceScurvX.com. Why do people get weird around you? Why people change around you when you see too much, when you can see right through them? There comes a point in life when you realize that something around you has changed, but nobody will say it out loud. The smiles feel different. The energy in conversations shifts. People who once seemed relaxed around you suddenly become guarded, distant, or strangely uncomfortable. You feel the tension, but when you try to explain it to someone else, they look at you like you're imagining things. But deep down inside, you know exactly what you feel because you know it's real. What many people call empathy is much deeper than kindness. It's not simply about being emotional or caring too much. Real empathy is perception. It is the ability to notice what other people are trying hard to hide. It's seeing the insecurity behind arrogance, the jealousy hidden behind compliments, and the manipulation disguised as concern. Most people spend their entire lives trying to protect these hidden layers of themselves. But some people can see through them naturally without even trying. That's where the problem begins. Because people do not mind being around kindness, but they become deeply uncomfortable around someone who can truly see them. Human beings survive socially through performance. Many relationships are built on silent agreements to ignore uncomfortable truths. People pretend not to notice fake behavior because it keeps the peace. They ignore dishonesty because it protects friendships. They tolerate manipulation because confronting it would destroy the comfort of the group. But once your awareness reaches a certain level, you stop participating in those illusions. You stop laughing at fake jokes just to fit in. You stop pretending toxic behavior is normal. You stop rewarding shallow conversations that have no honesty behind them. And even if you say nothing at all, people feel the difference in your presence. That is why your life slowly begins to change. Not dramatically at first, but quietly. Conversations become shorter. Invitations become fewer. People explain themselves to you even when you never question them. You become the silent mirror in the room, and mirrors make people uncomfortable because they force reflection. Most people who develop deep emotional perception did not learn it in a peaceful environment. It usually begins in chaos. It begins in homes where moods shifted without warning, where tension filled the room before anyone spoke, where survival depended on reading emotional signs quickly and accurately. Children raised in unstable environments often become experts at reading tone, facial expressions, silence, and hidden emotions because their nervous system learned that safety depended on awareness. Over time, this survival skill grows sharper and sharper. What started as protection slowly becomes a powerful form of psychological perception. You begin noticing things other people overlook completely. You can feel resentment hiding behind politeness. You recognize insecurity hidden inside confidence. You notice when someone is pretending to be something they are not. At first, people are drawn to this energy. They call you understanding. They tell you that you are easy to talk to. They open up to you because your presence feels safe. People reveal secrets, fears, and hidden emotions because they feel emotionally seen in a way they rarely experience. But eventually, something changes. The same people who once trusted you begin pulling away. The reason is simple. The more people reveal themselves, the more aware they become that you truly see them. You become a living reminder of the parts of themselves they are trying hard to forget. Human beings do not like feeling emotionally exposed for too long. It creates pressure, and eventually people distance themselves from whatever creates that pressure. This is one of the hardest truths for deeply aware people to accept. People are not always reacting to your personality. Sometimes they're reacting to the uncomfortable self-awareness your presence creates inside of them. In other words, you know they're dirt, whether they told you or not. You can see right through them, and they can't fool you. Most social groups survive because everybody agrees not to look too deeply. That is the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. Friendships often survive because people ignore each other's contradictions. Workplaces survive because employees stay silent about corruption and manipulation. Families survive because certain truths remain buried under years of silence and dysfunction. The moment somebody begins noticing too much, the social structure becomes unstable. That person becomes friction. They won't play along. You may notice this happening in your own life. The more aware you become, the harder it becomes to tolerate shallow interactions. Conversations start sounding repetitive. Emotional performances become easier to recognize. You begin hearing the same fake patterns repeated in different voices by different people. Eventually, your tolerance begins to disappear. You speak less because you already know where the conversation is going. You trust less because you recognize manipulation earlier. You withdraw from emotional drama because you see how predictable it really is. And while other people may call this coldness or arrogance, the truth is much deeper than that. Your nervous system is exhausted. When a person spends years reading emotional undercurrents, their mind adapts to protect itself. The emotional excitement that once came from connection slowly transforms into observation. You begin analyzing people instead of emotionally attaching to them. Not because you stop caring, but because repeated disappointment forces the mind to become more cautious. That is why many deeply perceptive people begin feeling emotionally isolated even when surrounded by others. They understand people more clearly than ever before, yet feel less connected than they did in the past. Most people say they value honesty, but very few people truly want to be seen completely. The human ego depends heavily on illusion. People create identities they want the world to believe: strong, confident, kind, loyal, honest, and the list goes on. But underneath those identities are insecurities, fears, jealousies, selfish desires, and hidden contradictions. When someone with deep perception enters the room, people sense that those hidden layers may become visible. Even if nothing is spoken out loud, the tension still exists. This is why people often label highly aware individuals as intense, difficult, detached, or overly serious. Those labels are not always descriptions. Many times they're defense mechanisms. It's easier for people to call you cold than to confront why your presence makes them uncomfortable. And over time, the social consequences grow heavier. You may notice people excluding you quietly instead of openly. The distance becomes subtle. Fewer calls, fewer invitations, less warmth, not because you attacked anyone, but because your awareness disrupted the emotional comfort they relied on. This creates one of the deepest forms of loneliness a person can experience. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of realizing how much of human interaction depends on pretending. After years of seeing through people, something begins changing inside your own psychology. Your empathy starts becoming analytical instead of emotional. You still understand people deeply, maybe more deeply than ever before, but the emotional warmth begins fading. You stop being shocked by hypocrisy because you expect it. You stop being surprised by manipulation because you recognize the patterns early. You begin predicting people's reactions before they even happen. I've gotten good at that. This creates a dangerous emotional distance. The heart wants connection, but the mind keeps noticing contradictions. The deeper your awareness becomes, the harder it becomes to fully surrender to emotional closeness without seeing the hidden layers underneath it. What a quagmire. Many people at this stage begin questioning themselves. They wonder if they have become too detached or too emotionally guarded. But often, the truth is simpler. Their awareness expanded beyond the emotional environment they once belonged to. And that realization changes everything. Because once you truly see the structure behind human behavior, you cannot fully return to unconscious participation. You can pretend, you can smile, you can socialize, but something inside you will always recognize the hidden dynamics operating underneath the surface. That awareness becomes both a gift and a burden. The hardest truth is not realizing that people wear masks. The hardest truth is realizing how much of society depends on those masks remaining untouched. Most people are not searching for truth. They are searching for comfort. Comfort keeps relationships stable. Comfort protects identities. Comfort allows people to avoid confronting the parts of themselves they fear the most. But awareness removes comfort. That is why deeply perceptive people often feel separated from the world around them. Not because they're better than others, but because they stop participating in the silent agreements that keep social life functioning smoothly. Eventually, you stop asking why people react to you differently. You begin asking a much deeper question. How much of this world are you willing to participate in once you can clearly see what it really is? That question changes everything, because once awareness reaches a certain level, life stops being automatic. Relationships stop being automatic. Trust stops being automatic. Participation itself becomes a conscious decision. And that is the part most people never want to confront, because seeing the truth is one thing, living with it is something else entirely. The world often celebrates awareness in theory, but punishes it in reality. People praise honesty until honesty exposes something they wanted hidden. They admire perception until perception begins dismantling illusions they depend on emotionally. That contradiction explains why so many deeply aware people feel disconnected from modern society. But awareness should not turn into bitterness. The goal is not to hate humanity. The goal is to understand it clearly without losing yourself in the process. There's a difference between seeing darkness in people and becoming consumed by it. Wisdom means learning how to recognize unhealthy patterns without allowing them to poison your spirit. That's the trick. Not every person is fake. Not every relationship is built on illusion. But becoming deeply aware forces you to become far more selective about who you allow close to your mind, your heart, and your energy. Discernment becomes necessary for survival. The truth is that some people will always prefer comfort over honesty. They will protect emotional performances because those performances make life easier to manage psychologically. You cannot force people to confront truths they are determined to avoid. That battle will drain your peace every single time, so leave it alone. So the real challenge is not learning how to see people clearly. The real challenge is learning how to remain emotionally balanced after you do. Because once your awareness expands, life is no longer about blindly fitting in. It becomes about deciding what deserves your presence, your energy, your trust, and most of all, your soul. It's so clear once you see it. And I have to say, at this particular point in my life, I have been through so much with fraudulent entities and people, hidden motivations and secret agendas and power plays and wanting to control, and the narcissists and the flying monkeys that support them. And, you know, you're going to be the outcast once you see this. But then once you see it, you really don't want to be around it. And to me, that's the ultimate revenge against these entities. You don't have to do anything. The ultimate punishment is them knowing that you know who they are and you don't want to be around them. And that's total freedom. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments. I'm glad you're here, and I want to keep going deeper into human nature. And even today in my deepest meditations, I discovered so many more levels, and I want to explore them. This is not about popularity. This is not about illusions or painting fake personas. I am who I am. This type of content is not for everybody, and I understand that. So I'm not looking for any of this to go viral, but I wanted to touch people who understand where I'm coming from because they're on that level. That's the most important thing to me, that you're not traveling down the wrong road. You're going down the right road when you can see certain things through your discernment, and you don't have to feel bad to separate or away from this kind of foolishness. You see what I mean? So enjoy the rest of your time. Thanks for coming around. LanceScurv out. On to the next one. Peace.